Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Southeast Media Sunrise, dedicated to giving a voice to authors of all genres. I'm your host, Jodi Hockinson. Joining us remotely by phone is Dr. Cletus Bulach. He is a retired Ohio school superintendent and associate professor emeritus at the University of West Georgia. He is the author of numerous articles in educational journals and is co-author of 2 books. The first is School Climate and Culture, Vis-à-vis Student Learning, Keys to Collaborative Problem Solving and Responsibility. The second book is Enhancing a High-Performing School Culture and Climate, New Insights for Improving Schools. The second book focuses on human relations problems that interfere with creating a positive school culture and climate, poor interpersonal communications, and inability to cope with conflict. The reform in school culture described in the books create a learning environment where a student's 5 basic needs are met. This leads to improved test scores and a 75% reduction in student discipline and misbehavior problems. Welcome, Dr. Bulach, and thank you for joining us today.
Hey, pleasure being on your show, Jodi. Looking forward to it.
Oh, likewise. Can you tell us, what are a student's 5 basic needs?
I came across this. I had a contract to evaluate every school district in the state of West Virginia in 2002, and I asked students, what do you like about school, what don't you like about school? And I asked teachers, what do you like about school, what don't you like about school? And based on all that data that I collected, that's why I wrote the 2 books on how to create a school where kids like to go, where teachers didn't quit in years 3 to 5, and we're looking forward to going back to school on Monday, and we're in a hurry to get out of school on Friday. That was the basic goal. And at the heart of all of that are life's 5 basic needs. They are not being met in many schools across the United States. They are not being met by teachers. They are not being met by the students. So here they are. Every student that I interviewed wants to be free of fear, anxiety, and stress, and basically from being bullied or being hurt. So that's number 1 need. Now, that's not just me. You can get on the web and look up Nietzsche, Niettzche, I believe is how you spell that. He was the first philosopher to talk about life's basic needs. Number 1, he agreed with the earlier 18th century philosophers that life itself, and freedom from stress, anxiety, and so forth, fear, was a basic need. The next philosopher came along and said, oh yeah, that's true, but there's another need. He says every human being wants moments of happiness in life. Life with no happiness is no life. Nietzsche came along, he says, oh yeah, that's true. But there's another need. He says it's power. Power. And I equate power with control. And if you just think about what's going on in the United States today and the politicians, they are trying to take control. The Democrats want control. The Republicans want control. Trump wants control. The courts want control. The Department of Justice. It's all about power. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's life's 3rd basic need, power, and how it's used. The 9 forms of power are described in Chapter 4 of book number 1. And there are freeing forms of power, 5, and there are controlling forms of power, 4. Position, reward, and punishment are 3 of the controlling forms of power, and you're familiar with those.
Yes.
Once you get position power, you have the ability to get rewards and punishment. And Trump is a master at using position power to get what he wants. He also uses the freeing forms a lot. We don't have time to go into those right now, but let's see. Which one does he use the most? He strokes a lot of people. I call it ego power. When you stroke someone, you're stroking their egos to get them to follow you and support you. And you notice whenever he has a program where he's on TV, he'll call all these people up and pat them on the back and tell them what a great job they've done and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call ego power. You stroke people's egos. Okay, that's a freeing form of power. You don't make them do anything, but they like you because you stroke their egos. Okay, that's a form of control. Then you get to the fourth need that all people have, and that's caring. You want people to care about you as a person. If you were to wake up one morning and realize that nobody cared about you as a person, they cared about your money and your position, but not about you as a person, that's an awful feeling. That's why parents are so important for kids. If the kids know that they are cared about, they feel good in the family. When a kid goes to school and believes the teacher doesn't care, and I can verify this as a student, when I went to high school, out of my 4 years of high school, I had one teacher who cared about me as a person. One.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And when I interviewed the kids in West Virginia, 50% of the kids said the teachers don't care about us. And I said, what do you like about school? And they said, the teachers. I said, what don't you like about school? And they said, the teachers. I said, well, tell me about that. And then the ones who said the teachers is what they liked about school, they said, well, some of these teachers care about us. They will talk to us. They want to help us learn. They'll do anything they can to make what happens here at school good for us. And the other one said, yeah, you've got these other teachers. They don't care about us. All they want is their paycheck. They come in and they prop their feet up on their chair and they look at us and they say, hey, guys, I'm your teacher. They got their cup of coffee and they're sitting there. They say, I'm your teacher. If you're here to learn, we're going to get along just fine. If you don't care about that, that's your problem. They don't care about us. So caring is a very big need. And many kids go to school believing the other kids don't care. The teachers don't care. The administration doesn't care. And they have no control. They're being bullied. They're not happy. And they're afraid. How are they going to learn? They're not motivated. That's one of the big problems with schools today. The kids, 50% of the kids are not motivated to learn because their needs aren't being met. And you come to the fifth need. And I asked the kids in West Virginia, why do you go to school? They says, well, we have to. It's the law. I says, you mean if you didn't have to go, you wouldn't go? No, I hate school. I wouldn't go. When I say, what do you like about school? They would say, recess, going home, getting on the bus to go home. They never said learning. Very few said, I come here to get a job, and the future. They had no purpose in going to school. So when you've got a kid, if you were to ask, I interviewed thousands and thousands of kids in every school district in the state of West Virginia, 5 months of interviews. And what I found was totally disturbing. I said, I've got to write a book where the kids' needs are being met, where the teachers' needs are being met, where the administration's needs are being met, where people care about each other, where they all have a purpose, where they have control. The mantra throughout the books is give control to people without giving it up. Once you give control to somebody and they don't do what they're supposed to do, you have to take it back, because if you don't, you lose your leadership. And that's the secret. That's the secret for teachers in schools today. You have to give control to the kids, but you can't give it up. Once you give it up, you lose your position power, and you lose your ability to lead. Now, we can talk about how do you give control to kids in the classroom if you want. You want to talk about that next?
Oh, that'd be great. Yes, please.
It's really pretty simple. As a teacher, I did this every year at the start of school. I says, what do you guys expect of me as your teacher? I'm going to give you 3 3x5 cards. I want you to write on each card one thing you expect of me, okay? And they looked at me like I was crazy. You want us to tell you what we expect? Yeah. Now, why did I do that? Because, first of all, I want a relationship with these kids. I want to give them control. I'm not giving it up. What do you expect of me as your teacher? And when I look out in the classroom today, you've got blacks, you've got whites, you've got Latinos, you've got Orientals, you've got rich kids and poor kids. All these kids come to that classroom with different expectations. And many teachers don't know what those kids expect. But they tell the kids what they expect. And that's what's wrong with, that's one way to give control to the kids without giving it up. The next thing I did was, maybe a week or so into the school year, I would go to the kids and I say, I want you to tell me what rules you want enforced in this classroom. They look at me like I'm crazy. You want us to tell you what rules we want? Yeah, I'd like to know what you think the rules ought to be in this classroom. 3 3x5 cards. Each kid writes one rule on each card. I get the cards back, and I've got 5 classes of kids with 20-plus kids in each class, and I quickly sort them into common piles. And I paraphrase what's in each pile, and I make a list of rules, and I put them up on the board. Hey, guys, these are the rules that you told me you want enforced in this classroom. And they look up there. They say, oh, I wrote that rule. I wrote that rule. And all around the classroom, the kids are looking up to see the rules that they wrote. And they're just totally amazed. Now, normally, there's a rule they don't put up there that I want, so I put it in. And it's,
so do they ever figure it out?
Turn your homework in on time. No, they never figured it out. But again, I'm giving control to the kids. I'm saying, I am here to serve. I'm a servant leader. I'm here to serve you. Now, your listeners out there, parents can do this to their kids. You can go to the kids and say, hey, I'm going to give you 5 3x5 cards. I want you to know what rules you think we ought to have in our house. So the rules get put up on the refrigerator, and everybody in the house knows what the rules are. You can also go to them and say, what do you expect of me or us as your parents? What do those kids expect of their parents? Most parents don't know. In many cases, in many families, parents across the United States, the kids figure out what the parents expect eventually. The kids figure out what the rules are, but they're not written. When you know what the expectations of the kids are and they know what the rules are, you've got one of the forms of power in place is called moral power. Moral power. When moral power is in place, it's what is the right thing to do in this house, in this classroom, in this organization, in this church, in this group, in this anywhere. Moral power. And when things are not done the way they're supposed to be done, you remind them of the right thing to do. And they say, oh, I forgot. And they will change their behavior because it's the right thing to do. You give control to people without giving it up. That's the secret to leadership. Whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, administrator, a preacher, or whatever, if you try to control the people under you, they will rebel. They will fight you. They will resist you. They will not be motivated. So giving control is what you have to do. Giving choices is giving control. You're allowing them to make decisions. And what do you want your kids to end up doing when they leave your house? They have to make decisions. They've got to be responsible. You can't hold their hand all their lives. So as they mature, you give them more and more choices. Give control without giving it up. Here's my favorite one, and it's one that most kids, when they're 16, they get the keys to the car and they get to go out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Curfew, there's usually a curfew, 12 o'clock. Conflict management, there's one technique that I used all the time with my kids and with teachers. It's called the broken record, okay? Curfew's 12 o'clock. The kid comes in at 12:15, and you say, son or daughter, curfew's 12 o'clock. But, Dad, you don't understand. On the way home, we saw this. Son, curfew's 12 o'clock. Dad, you don't understand. Curfew's 12 o'clock. Louisa, curfew's 12 o'clock. Curfew's 12 o'clock. I don't care what the kid says. Curfew's 12 o'clock. Don't ever let them suck you in. Because once you allow them to go past the curfew, the game's over. It's called the broken record. And I used it on teachers who would show up. They were supposed to be clock in by 7 o'clock when they came in at 7:05. And when I had to ask the teachers, what do you expect of me as your principal? One of them was enforce the rules on all faculty members. Don't take it out on the entire faculty. So when a teacher came in at 7:05, I said, you're supposed to sign in by 7 o'clock. But you don't understand. Sign in by 7 o'clock. And on, I've broken recorded. And pretty soon the teacher shut up and knew that they had to be there at 7 o'clock. The same thing is true with, again, you give control to people. You tell them what the rules are, or they tell you what the rules are, and then you have to enforce them. And when they don't do it, you've got to take control back. Well, those are the 5 basic needs, and some of the other things about how do you give control as a leader to people, to be a servant leader, to serve them. The opposite of that is self-serving, okay? Now, if you think of presidents, there are a lot of people who think Trump is self-serving. In fact, most of what he does is servant leadership. He says, I want to make America great again. And the things he does so far, he is working toward that. When you look at President Obama, he says, I've got the pen, you're Congress, I don't have to do, you're not doing it. I've got the pen and I've got the phone. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do what I want. That's a self-serving statement. Although he had some servant leadership abilities as well. Anyway, the servant leader versus a self-servant. When I asked the kids, what do you like? You know, they pictured many teachers as being there to serve their needs, caring about them, wanting to help them, wanting them to learn. And they pictured the other ones as self-serving. So when you look at people, if you come across as self-serving, people aren't going to trust you. They aren't going to be motivated. And they're going to resist your leadership. As a parent, your role is to serve your kids. They are not there to serve you. But you have to come across as I am there for you and help them and care about them and meet their needs. And I think that's probably the biggest. And if you're a teacher or a preacher or no matter what your role, the key to being a leader is give control to people without giving it up. Now, how do you do that? You give them choices. You ask them what they expect of you as a leader. And that's easy to do, no matter what your role is, whether you're a parent, a supervisor in a factory. You can ask them, what do you expect of me as your supervisor, as your teacher, as your this or as your that? And find out, because that says a lot of things to the people under you. It says, I care about you. I want a relationship with you. I'm here to help. I am your leader. I need to know. I think that's probably the biggest message. We could get into the 6 reasons for low test scores. We could get into the 9 forms of power. We could get into the 5 communication skills.
What is the one communication skill that you feel like everyone out there could use?
It's called paraphrasing. Somebody says something, and you hear it, and you say to them, this is what I think I heard you say. And you put into your own words what you think you heard them say. That says, I'm listening. I care about you. I want to understand. There are two, openness has 2 dimensions. One is a telling dimension and a listening dimension. Most people are very open on the telling, but not on the listening. Paraphrasing is one way to show people that you're listening to them and that you care about them. It's unfortunate, but many times when people are talking, they tell you something, And what they said was not what they meant to say. But when you paraphrase, you say, this is what I heard you say. I think you said so-and-so, and you put it in your words, and they say, oh, no, that wasn't what I meant to say. It opens up communication. It opens up trust. That's probably the best of the 5 communication skills. There is a Facebook page called Improving Our Schools, and any one of your listeners can get on it. A lot of this stuff that I've said is on that site, on Facebook, Improving Our Schools.
Okay, looks like that's all the time we have for today. Fascinating interview. Anyone interested in purchasing these books can log into semediapro.com or visit Amazon. This book is available on Kindle in hardcover and in paperback. For an autographed copy, you can visit westga.edu//C-Bulach. Also, you'll find a link to that on our podcast page at semediapro.com. All materials on that website, westga.edu//C-Bulach, are free. Again, we have been speaking with Dr. Cletus Bulach, author of School Climate and Culture Vis-à-vis Student Learning, Keys to Collaborative Problem Solving and Responsibility, and Enhancing a High-Performing School Culture and Climate, New Insights for Improving Schools. Thanks again for joining us today, Dr. Bulach.
Pleasure, Jodi. You're a good interviewer. Thank you.
Thank you. And listeners, if you're interested in getting your book published, please visit us at semediapro.com and click on the book publishing link. This is Jodi Hockinson, host of Southeast Media Sunrise, Southeast Media Productions. Like us on Facebook at Southeast Media Productions or visit our website at semediapro.com.